Alex, there's a specific kind of silence in a workshop just after you flip the breaker on a welder. It's like the house is holding its breath, waiting to see if you're about to dim the neighborhood streetlights or actually build something beautiful.
Looking at the state of your electrical panel, Tiger, I think the neighbors are just waiting for the inevitable fireworks. But honestly, I get why people are intimidated. Metal isn't like wood. You can't just shave a little off with a hand plane if you mess up. It feels permanent and expensive.
It's the expensive part that keeps folks shivering on the sidelines. They see those $3,000 rigs in the glossy catalogs and think they need a second mortgage just to stick two pieces of angle iron together. But the truth is, the barrier to entry has never been lower. You can get into this game without liquidating your 401k, provided you don't mind getting a little grit under your fingernails.
Okay, let's say I'm that person. I've got $100 and a dream, or maybe slightly more than 100. Where do I actually start? Because if I look up welder on Amazon, I get 10,000 results that all look like bright orange lunchboxes.
Those lunchboxes are actually a miracle of modern engineering, though they do vary in miraculousness. First, you have to pick your poison: MIG, TIG, or stick. For a home shop on a budget, I usually point people toward MIG or its rugged, messy cousin, flux core.
Why not stick? I thought that was the classic old man in a shed move. Cheap, simple, works on rusty tractors.
Oh, stick is great if you want to feel like a Norse god forging a hammer in a thunderstorm. It's cheap, and it'll burn through rust and paint like a hot knife through butter. But the learning curve? It's like trying to light a match in a windstorm while wearing mittens. For a beginner, MIG, gas metal arc welding, is the point and shoot of the metal world.
Point and shoot. I like the sound of that. But I've heard MIG requires those big, scary, high-pressure gas tanks. That doesn't sound very budget-friendly to me.
That's where flux cord, arc welding, FCAW, comes in. It's essentially MIG welding, but instead of a gas tank, the gas is hidden inside the wire itself. It's a hollow wire filled with magic dust, flux, that creates its own shield when it melts.
So it's more portable?
Exactly. You can take a flux core machine out into the driveway on a breezy day, and it won't care. If you tried that with a standard MIG setup, the wind would blow your shielding gas away, and your weld would end up looking like a piece of Aero chocolate, just full of bubbles and regret.
Regret is a very Tiger way to describe porosity. But wait, I've seen your MIG welds. They're clean. Flux core looks like a bird with a digestive problem flew over the metal.
I won't lie to you, Alex. Flux core is messy. It leaves a layer of slag you have to chip off, and it spits sparks like a dragon with a head cold. But for someone starting out in a garage, it's phenomenal. Most of these entry-level multi-process machines on Amazon or at the big box stores can do both. You start with flux core because it's cheap, and when you've saved up enough for a gas bottle and a regulator, you plug them in and suddenly you're making those pretty bead-like welds.
Okay, so we've picked a machine. Now let's talk safety, because I'm quite fond of my eyesight and my skin.
Good, because the light from a welding arc isn't just bright. It's essentially a concentrated dose of the sun's surface. It'll give you a sunburn in about 30 seconds. You need a helmet, and this is one area where I tell people, don't buy the absolute bottom of the barrel option.
What's the difference? Is a $50 helmet going to leave me blind?
Not blind, but maybe with a headache that feels like a mule kicked you. The cheap ones have slower auto-darkening sensors. A tenth of a millisecond doesn't sound like much, but if you're striking an arc 100 times a day, those tiny flashes of light add up. Get a decent mid-range auto-darkening hood. It should have a grind mode too, because you're going to be doing a lot more grinding than welding starting out.
Is that the secret? That welding is actually 90% grinding?
It's the dirty little secret of every master craftsman. If you can't weld well, weld a lot, and own a really good angle grinder.
Speaking of grinders, what else is on the must-have list before I can actually join two pieces of steel?
You need a dedicated circuit, for one. Don't try to run a welder on the same circuit as your wife's treadmill and the beer fridge. You'll be walking to the breaker box more than you'll be welding. Ideally, you want a 220-volt outlet, but many modern budget welders are dual voltage. They'll run on a standard 110-volt household plug, but you'll be limited on how thick the metal can be.
Like, how thin are we talking? Can I fix a lawnmower deck?
Oh, easily. On a 110V, you can do 1/8 inch steel all day. If you want to build a trailer frame or something that needs to hold a car, you're going to want that 220V dryer plug power.
And what about a table? Do I need one of those fancy perforated steel tables with all the clamps that cost more than my car?
Absolutely not. My first welding table was a literal piece of scrap plate I found at a junkyard, propped up on some cinder blocks. The key is just having a flat, non-flammable surface. If you weld on a wooden workbench, you aren't a welder, you're an arsonist.
Fair point. I'll keep the fire department off speed dial for now. But what about the stuff nobody tells you? The hidden costs that sneak up after you've bought the shiny machine?
PPE, personal protective equipment, is the big one. You need leather. Not fashion leather, but heavy-duty cowhide. A spark falling into the crease of a synthetic sneaker is a dance you only want to perform once. And gloves, don't go thin. You want to be able to pick up a piece of hot steel for a second without your skin turning into a steak.
And the metal itself? Where does a budget hobbyist get material without paying boutique prices at the hardware store?
Step 1. Stop buying metal at the hardware store. They charge by the inch like it's made of solid gold. Find a local steel supply yard. Most of them have a remnant pile, bits and pieces left over from big industrial jobs. They usually sell it by the pound. You walk in with 20 bucks and walk out with enough steel to keep you busy for a month.
Just stroll in and ask for the scraps?
Basically, just don't go in there looking like you're lost. Bring a tape measure, wear your boots, and be polite to the guy at the counter. Those guys have forgotten more about metallurgy than I'll ever know.
You mentioned TIG earlier. Why is that the final boss of welding? It looks so peaceful in the videos. No sparks, just a quiet hum.
It's the height of the craft. It stands for tungsten inert gas. You're holding a torch in one hand, a filler rod in the other, and usually controlling the heat with a foot pedal. It's like playing the drums while performing surgery.
So not for me yet.
It's for when you want to weld aluminum or stainless steel, stuff that needs to look like a stack of dimes, but it's slow, and the machines are pricier. If you're just looking to build a workbench or fix a gate, TIG is like using a scalpel to cut a steak. It'll do it, but you'll be there all night.
Okay, let's talk real world. Give me a shop disaster moment from your early days. Something that taught you a lesson the hard way.
Oh man. I was working on an old truck frame. I was so focused on getting the penetration right, making sure the weld was deep and strong, that I didn't notice I tucked my pants into my boots.
Oh no.
Oh yes. A glob of molten slag, we call it a cherry, jumped off the weld, bypassed my apron, and took a direct flight into my right boot.
Stop. What did you do?
There is no doing in that situation. There is only a very loud, very unmanly screech and a frantic attempt to kick a boot off while it's still moving. I learned two things that day. Always wear your pants over your boots, and never, ever weld in nylon socks. They don't just burn, they melt to your feet.
Note to self, wool socks only.
See that? It's all about the sound. When you've got the wire speed and the voltage dialed in just right, it doesn't pop or hiss. It sounds like bacon frying in a pan.
Bacon? Seriously?
Best sound in the world. If it sounds like a machine gun, your wire is too fast. If it's just stumbling and dying, you're too far away. But when you hear that consistent sizzle, you're cooking.
I've heard people talk about dry firing or practicing without the machine on. Does that actually help?
It's the only way to build muscle memory. I've spent hours just moving a cold torch along a line, practicing how to keep my hand steady. Because once that arc light hits, your world shrinks to about 2 inches of glowing metal. If you haven't practiced the movement, you'll wander off the joint like a drunk on a sidewalk.
What about fumes? We're in a garage. Am I going to pass out from the smoke?
Ventilation isn't a suggestion, it's a requirement, especially if you're using flux core or welding on anything galvanized. Galvanized steel has a zinc coating that, when burned, releases metal fume fever. It'll make you feel like you have the flu for 3 days. Always grind off the coating before you weld and keep a fan moving the air away from your face.
Metal fume fever sounds like a bad 80s band name.
It feels worse than their music.
All right, so let's recap the budget Tiger Den setup. We're looking at a dual voltage MIG flux core machine, maybe an Amazon special or a prime weld, a decent mid-range auto darkening helmet, an angle grinder with an assortment of wheels, a slab of steel for a table, leather gear, and a stack of remnants from the local yard. What's the total damage?
You can do all that for under $500 or $600, which sounds like a lot, until you realize that one pro repair on a car or a piece of heavy equipment can cost that much in labor alone. The machine pays for itself. The second time, you don't have to call a guy named Salty to come out and fix your trailer.
I think I know Salty. He's expensive.
Everyone knows a salty.
You know, it's funny. We started this talking about how intimidating metal is, but listening to you, it almost sounds forgiving. Like, As long as you have a grinder and some patience, you can iterate until it's right.
That's exactly it. Wood grows in a certain direction. It has a grain that demands respect. Metal is just a raw material waiting for you to tell it what to be. If you mess up a weld, you grind it out and do it again. It's an honest way to spend an afternoon. There's no undo button in life, but a 4.5-inch grinding disc comes pretty close.
I think that should be on a t-shirt. The grinder, life's undo button.
Just don't wear that shirt while you're welding. It's probably cotton.
Got it. Wool and leather only.
You'll do fine, Alex. Just remember, the first 10 feet of weld you ever do probably belong in the trash. Don't let that stop you from doing the 11th foot. That's the one where things usually start to click.
I'm ready. I might start with something small, though. Maybe a plant stand before I try a bridge.
Good call. The plants won't complain if your beads are a little lumpy. Just promise me one thing. If you do catch your boots on fire, make sure I'm there with the camera. The listeners deserve to hear the sequel to my story.
Oh, you'll be the first to know. But I'm planning on staying fire-free.
That's what we all say until the first spark hits.
Thanks for the tour, Tiger. I think I'm actually going to go buy some steel.
Go get 'em. And remember, watch the sizzle, mind the fumes, and for the love of all that's holy, keep your pants over your boots.